All right, let's talk about AI. We hear about it everywhere, right? But what's its secret ingredient? The one thing it absolutely cannot live without? Well, it's data. And today, we're going to dive into why data is both the most critical fuel for AI and, interestingly, its biggest Achilles heel.
So think about it. We're just swimming in this massive ocean of information, right? I mean, every time you click something, buy something, or even just walk down the street, you're generating data. So the huge question becomes, how in the world do we cut through all that noise to make actually smart, informed decisions?
You know, for the longest time, big decisions were made based on gut feelings, right? Personal experience, intuition, all that subjective stuff. But now there's a completely different and way more powerful way to do things. We're shifting from just feeling what's right to knowing what's right, using objective, evidence-based decisions that are all powered by data.
And that brings us perfectly to our first section, Decisions in a Data World. Let's look at how we made that incredible leap from just gut feelings to genuinely smart insights.
So what is data really? Because it's easy to just picture numbers in a spreadsheet, but it's so much more than that. We're talking about everything: facts, figures, documents, pictures, even videos. It's basically the raw material that, once you piece it all together, gives you this amazing window into how things actually work.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, the benefits are huge. It's almost like giving a business superpowers. You can suddenly spot these hidden patterns to serve customers better, you can streamline your whole operation to be more efficient, and at the end of the day, you can make these killer moves that leave your competition completely in the dust.
Okay, but here's the catch. You've got these massive mountains of data. You can't just throw more people at it. It's impossible. You need a smarter tool. And that tool, of course, is AI. Which leads us to our next section, how AI actually works. We're going to look at how you train this smart machine.
So, at its most basic level, AI is all about making machines that can think and reason kind of like we do. And what's the one thing they need to learn how to do that? Yep, you already know where this is going. It's all about the data.
Now let's drill down a bit. A huge piece of AI is something called machine learning, or ML. And this is where the real magic happens. See, instead of a human programmer sitting there writing code for every single possible scenario, ML lets the computer figure out the rules on its own, simply by sifting through tons and tons of examples from data. And this comparison really hits the nail on the head. Think of it this way. Traditional programming is like handing a chef a very detailed recipe. You tell them exactly what to do. But machine learning? That's like showing the chef 1,000 different delicious cakes and saying, okay, you figure out the recipe. It's a total game changer in how we solve problems. And all this learning capability leads us straight to the AI that everyone's talking about right now. Generative AI. Yeah, this is the engine behind tools like ChatGPT. It doesn't just analyze data. It takes everything it's learned from all those patterns and uses it to create brand new stuff. An email, a picture, you name it. So it's really useful to break down the two main flavors of AI you'll see. On one side, you've got predictive AI. Think of this as a detective. It looks at all the clues in the data to predict what's going to happen next, like spotting fraud. Then you have generative AI, which is more like an artist. It creates something totally new. Both are incredibly powerful, but they're built for very different jobs, and, as you'll see, come with their own unique challenges. Okay, so AI sounds pretty incredible, right? It's powerful, it's smart, but here's the twist. The very thing that gives AI all its power, the data, is also its biggest weakness. And that brings us to a super important section, AI's biggest weakness. Time to find the ghost in the machine. I love this quote. Data is the fuel driving machine learning. It's just the perfect analogy, isn't it? An AI model is like a high-performance race car engine, and the data? That's the fuel you pour into it. High-quality fuel, high-quality performance. Simple as that.
But that raises a really scary question. What happens if that fuel is bad? What if it's contaminated? What happens when the data we're feeding these incredibly powerful machines is just plain wrong?
Well, that's when you get into some serious trouble. There's overfitting, which is basically when the AI just memorizes the answers to the test instead of learning the subject, so it fails on any new questions. Then there's underfitting, where it's so simple it can't even grasp the basics. But the most dangerous one, that's bias. That's when the AI learns the wrong lessons entirely because the data we gave it was skewed and didn't reflect the real world.
And here's the bottom line. It's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
It is a simple, unavoidable truth. If your data is wrong or incomplete or biased, the AI you build on top of it will be untrustworthy and unfair. Period. And we're not just talking about some technical glitches here. These are like landmines waiting to go off, with huge, real-world consequences. We're talking about serious risks like massive data breaches, privacy violations, and algorithmic bias that can lead to actual discrimination in things like who gets a job or who gets approved for a loan.
Okay, that all sounds pretty scary, I know, but it's not all doom and gloom. The solution is to be incredibly careful and intentional about how we build these things. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, building trustworthy AI. It's really about giving the machine a kind of human compass.
Look, the answer isn't to just slam on the brakes and stop developing AI. It's about grabbing the steering wheel and pointing it in the right direction. We've got to build this technology on a solid foundation of responsibility, with really clear rules and strong governance to make sure it's headed somewhere good. So how do we actually do that? Well, there's a pretty clear roadmap. First, you've got to use data from all kinds of different sources. If your data is one-sided, your AI will be too. Second, you clean up that data and make sure it's high quality. Third, you have to constantly check your models for hidden biases. Fourth, you have to actually measure fairness to make sure it works for everyone. And finally, transparency. You need to be able to open the hood and explain why the AI made the decision it did.
And of course, protecting the data itself is absolutely crucial. There are a few key ways to do this. There's encryption, which basically scrambles the data so it's unreadable to anyone who shouldn't see it. There's anonymization, which strips out any personal details. And then there are access controls, which is just a fancy way of saying you make sure only the right people can get to the data in the first place.
And it's so important to get this. Being responsible with data isn't a one-and-done thing. It's not a checklist you tick off. It's a constant process that covers the entire life of that data, from the second it's collected all the way until it's properly disposed of. You have to have good governance baked in at every single stage.
Because at the end of the day, that's the real goal here, isn't it? We're not just trying to build powerful AI for the sake of it. We're trying to build AI that we can actually trust. AI that's effective, that's accurate, and that is fundamentally ethical.
And that leaves us with one last really important thought to chew on. An AI is like a mirror. It doesn't create anything from scratch. It just reflects the data we show it, all of our brilliant insights, and all of our hidden biases. So the question we all need to answer is, how do we make sure that the reflection staring back at us shows the very best of who we are?